our conversation we had earlier, Zach, with Jonathan Papelbon, closer for the Red Sox and Nationals. But you remember this was a good memory for you, Zach, the Andino game.
Oh, remember it very, very well.
Good time, right?
Very good time. And we know Jonathan also remembers it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, to say the least. And Jonathan, though, we talked to him about what it's like because for that year, if you guys remember, the Red Sox had a massive lead to make the playoffs, fell off, and then they lose that finale in Baltimore, and Dino walks it off, and then Evan Longoria hits the home run seconds after, minutes after, and it's one of the coolest endings to a regular season that will be in history of the game. So let's listen to Jonathan Papelbon here because we talked a little bit about what it's like for teams with expectations and specifically going through that time with Boston.
Part of where expectations are high, things weren't going right at the times when you needed it to. Could you sense that when you were in the locker room at the time, or was it something that it just shit at the fan and it happens? Because I try to tell people there's that fan perspective when you're out there going, well, this team looks like garbage. They're terrible. Like, you guys are never giving in. And you certainly can never show that you have doubt. Because once that happens, then you're already screwed. But could you just talk about dealing with those expectations as it gets into like the end of a playoff hunt?
Yeah. So, the expectations for us that year, we woke up on a September morning and it was bright and sunny. By the end of September, it was dark, gloomy clouds, but there's certain places where you just have to deal with it more, like Boston, New York, and LA, and Chicago. But I mean, look, it's something you sign up for. When you sign with certain teams, you're expected to be in the playoffs and win it all. So for me, I grew up in that type of organization where we were expected to win, and so when you are and you start plateauing downhill. Man, it's not a good feeling. And you feel it in the clubhouse. Everybody, the pressure only gets bigger. And then, like, for us, it's just like a hot air balloon at the end of the season. Bam, explodes. But I always loved that and cherished that. And it made me better to, nobody expected more than I did out of myself. So I always enjoyed being on teams with high expectations.
But it just goes to show teams got to learn how to handle pressures better. So I appreciate that context with it.
So the big points I took away from Jonathan right there, teams with expectations, and he was talking about specifically the bigger cities, New York and Boston, because why? They're expected to be contending almost every year. That's just, how they've spent money and how that's been that organizational type of culture. Baltimore hasn't had that, but for the first time in probably, honestly, this is the most expectations that this Baltimore Orioles team has had in, I'd like to probably go back to the 96, 97 time for Baltimore. Even with the run with Buck Showalter for the Orioles in the 2010s, it was not the same type of expectation for a team coming off 101 wins where they thought that they would be better. And I think that people, Zach, throw the thought around that winning 100 games is easy. It's so damn hard to do that. And the Orioles have the talent, but obviously they had some injuries, right, Zach? There was a lot of key injuries here that happened, and a lot of teams would have fallen flat on their face. Another thing that he mentioned is you can sense it in the clubhouse. Mm-hmm. You can feel it. And you're trying to battle through it. But it's hard, and last night I think was a perfect example in the game, Zach. When it rains, it pours. You don't execute in situations. Then you start making blunders. James McCann not having his foot on home plate was tough.
Yeah.
A veteran, and it happens. He lost feeling of where home plate was, and he felt he had it on the whole time. Doesn't. Sometimes you can say, the cleat has a lot of mud or dirt, and that can go into your perception being off, but it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And it happened. Heston Kjerstad gets drilled or gets hit in the foot. Everyone thinks that's a good thing. It is to get on base. But the problem was if Heston gets out of the way or just moves a hair, that ball's to the backstop, the Orioles score a run. So when you don't execute, the little things don't go your way. And a lot of things haven't gone for Baltimore's way here.
Yeah, I mean, you just talked about winning 100 games, expectations coming off a 101 win season, and to be better than that. Unless the Phillies win nine of their next last 10, unless the Dodgers win all of their last 10, not a single team in baseball is going to finish this year with 100 wins. Not a single team. It is hard to win 100 games. It's one of the hardest things to do in sports. People act like winning 100 games in baseball is like winning 12 games in football, that everyone should do, that's the standard of a good team. 90 wins is tough in baseball, let alone 100.
Yeah, the team that won the World Series last year had 90 wins. Texas. Yeah. Team that went to the World Series
and there were like four teams won 100 games last year, and then a team that won 90 games wins it all.
And the team that had 84 wins knocked off the best team, Dodgers, and the Phillies back-to-back. That 84-win Diamondback team went into Philadelphia and won games 6 and 7 in the postseason. The Texas Rangers that were one game over 500 on the road the entire regular season limped into the playoffs, won 11 straight, and made baseball history in the postseason. So you get where I'm going with this. It's ugly, and I get it. It's frustrating for fans when you see your team you care about so much it feels like a mistake after mistake, or you're not fixing it. And I hear a lot of comments here, and I'll get into a few of it doesn't seem like that they're making adjustments, Ryan. It doesn't seem like they're actually going out there and handling the expectations well. I told people no one cares about your injuries in professional sports. Oh, you're injured. Yeah, well, guess what? You got to step up. That's why when I say, hey, the O's are fine, people take it in different ways. My way of taking it, and that's cool. Like I understand. That's why I'm saying everyone has the right to be frustrated, be mad. But I say what I say because if you give in, you cast doubt, you might as well call it a season if that's your thought process. If you're going to say, woe is me, it's frustrating, we're not doing well, then yeah, you should pack it up. You can be frustrated, but you got to keep working. The Orioles are trying to work through it.